We're ready to get started. Welcome to the Appropriations Committee. Are we recording?
Yes, we are.
All right, thank you. My name is Rob Clements. I'm from Elmwood. I represent Legislative District 2. I serve as chair of this committee. We'll start off by having the committee members do self-introductions, starting with my far right.
Steve Urban, District 47. Warren Lippincott, District 34.
Tony Vargas, District 7.
Anna Wishart, District 27.
Sorry, Robert Dobrik, District 19, Madison County, South Africa.
Myron Dorn, District 30.
Christy Armandaris, District 18.
And if there are committee members absent, they may be presenting a bill in another committee, and you may see them come and go during the afternoon. If you're planning to testify today, please fill out a green testifier sheet located on the side of the room and hand it to the page when you come up to testify. If you will not be testifying but want to go on record as having a position on a bill being heard today, there are yellow sign-in sheets on the side of the room where you may leave your name and other pertinent information. These sign-in sheets will become exhibits in the permanent record after today's hearing. To better facilitate today's hearing, I ask that you abide by the following procedures. Please silence your cell phones. When hearing bills, the order of testimony will be introducer, proponents, opponents, neutral, and closing. When we hear testimony regarding agencies, we will first hear from a representative of the agency. Then we will hear testimony from anyone who wishes to speak on the agency's budget request. When you come to testify, please spell your first and last name for the record before you testify. To be concise, we request that you limit your testimony to 5 minutes or less. Written material may be distributed to the committee members as exhibits only while testimony is being offered. Hand them to the page for distribution when you come up to testify. If you have written testimony but do not have 12 copies, please raise your hand now so the page can make copies for you. One other comment I had about spelling your name. I introduced Shell Bill yesterday in the committee. I didn't say my name or spell it. I just was realizing later yesterday. Sorry, Vice Chair. And so I'll try to remind you if you forget. With that, we'll begin today's hearing with Agency 16, the Department of Revenue. The representative, please come forward. Welcome.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
All right. Chairman Clements and members of the Appropriations Committee, for the record, my name is Glenn White, Glen White, and I am Nebraska's Deputy Tax Commissioner testifying in support of your preliminary recommendation for Agency 16. Commissioner Cam had a pre-existing conflict today and unfortunately is not able to be at today's hearing. He extends his appreciation to the committee for its hard work and looks forward to working with you in the future. We appreciate the committee's thoughtful work on the preliminary report. We want to emphasize that the Department of Revenue is working hard to improve efficiency by eliminating costs as well as to improve the customer experience through faster delivery of services. We generally agree with and support your proposal. The exceptions that we want to note are the modifications to the proposal with respect to the additional funding for the homestead exemption program and the proposed reductions to the three of the cash fund balances. The homestead exemption program 108 is managed through the Department of Revenue. Per our request, the governor recommended increases to the homestead exemption program for 23-24 of $14.7 million and an additional $15.4 million for 24-25. The increase in the homestead exemption program for 23-24 is due to the increase in both the number of exemptions and the valuation growth. We expect valuation growth to continue to increase into 24-25. We respectfully ask the committee to adopt the recommendation made by the governor. The $15 million transfer for fiscal year in 2024 and $9 million transfer for fiscal year ending 2025 from the Tobacco Products Administration Cash Fund to the general fund is prudent based upon projected receipts and historical expenditures for that fund. There are plenty of funds remaining to administer the program. We are not expecting any other outlays and ask that you adopt the governor's recommendation. The $4 million transfer for fiscal year ending in 24 and $1 million for fiscal year ending in 25 from the Revenue Enforcement Cash Fund to the general fund is prudent based upon projected receipts and historical expenditures for that fund as well. There are plenty of funds remaining within this fund to continue our enforcement efforts. We ask that you adopt the governor's recommendation for this fund. The approximate $12 million transfer for fiscal year ending in 2024 and approximate $7 million for fiscal year ending in 2025 from the Charitable Gaming Operations Cash Fund to the general fund is based upon projected receipts and historical expenditures for that fund. If current market conditions continue, there are adequate funds remaining within this fund to continue our enforcement efforts. Again, we support your preliminary recommendations for Agency 16, except as noted. I thank you, Chairman Clements, members of the committee, and the LFO staff for your continued diligent work on the budget. I am available for your questions.
Other questions from the committee? Senator Dorn.
Could you explain a little bit more of that, because the homestead exemption, these are from valuations now, that's grown from what we knew last year. You said the basic evaluation, approximately what percent valuation, what percent, give us some thought on that.
Okay, I think the valuation is about 26%.
How much?
26.
26%.
Yes, it's 26%. So
That's statewide.
I believe that is statewide. So I don't know that when we, so last time I was here and I recommended an increase also for homestead exemption because we were short. So I'm here again asking for an additional increase to homestead because we are again short because I don't know that we anticipated a 26% increase.
Senator Armendariz.
Thank you. Thanks for being here. That's kind of the question I have too. So the 26% hike in valuations, and now we owe then those taxing entities that difference because of the homestead exemptions?
Correct. Yep. Yeah, because as the valuations goes up, the homestead exemptions that we fund to the counties would also go up.
Okay, and forgive me, I don't know how that structure is set up, but the counties have available to them still the property tax from those homesteads.
That's
The
correct.
state has stepped in and said, we'll pay those
We'll pay those on behalf of the beneficiaries.
according to values.
Mhm.
So
That's correct.
since the structure was set up that they could grab 26% hikes, we now owe that. to
We
the
reimburse
county,
it, yeah,
to the tax entities.
to the counties who then give it to the taxing jurisdictions.
Thank you.
Senator Dorn.
Yeah, so just because a 26% increase in valuation doesn't mean that's gonna go up by 26% because the county's gonna decide where they wanna put their levy. So like in our county, they actually, no, okay, please explain that to me.
This, yeah, go ahead.
So the 26% is, as I understand it, is based on the valuations that the assessors have assessed. It's actual assessments, I believe.
Senator Dorn.
Okay, I'm with you.
Yeah, thank you, Senator Clemens. I guess I'm gonna ask another question and have you explain this, because that 26% increase wasn't in valuation across the whole state. That was in the homestead exemption program where it went up 26%. So that, yes, because valuation across the whole state didn't go up 26% last year.
Yeah, so you're right, it's homestead.
So it's
data.
in the
That's
program and you have to meet certain guidelines, like, I don't know, $200,000 or less, and then your income guidelines and all of those. So the county has nothing to do with whether this is refunded or not, other than the fact that they set the valuations.
Correct.
They do not determine the amount. The state allocates the amount based on this program.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well said, yep.
Yeah.
This is homestead data. That's
Yes.
absolutely correct.
But the 26%, that was my question. Am I correct in saying that that was what the valuation went up in this program? Because I know the valuation across the state didn't go up 26%.
Yes, yep, that's what it's showing here, the valuation growth for the program.
Okay,
And that was for 23, 24.
23, 24. Okay.
Other questions?
Oh, and I want to point out that the number of exemptions, so that went up as well. So both things are happening.
Because of income level, they met some guidelines or different things in that program. They now qualified, so then that also became a part of that.
Yeah, and I don't know how much of this was caused by legislative changes, but yeah.
Senator Dover?
Isn't what a homeowner is responsible for paying as far as their property tax is based on the levy and the valuation of the property in that county?
Yes.
Right.
Right.
So when we have, okay, so,
Okay.
and so
Yes.
for clarification, then this
Yeah.
26% has nothing to do with the valuation. It's just what the homestead amount that they're paying and has gone up that much. But if it went up 26%, that would be a combination of political subdivisions raising their levy and valuations going up. Could be a combination of both of those, correct?
Mhm.
All right, thank you.
Yeah. I was-
You
I-
have to
I was
go
wrong.
on.
No, I was wrong, yes.
And for clarification also, I've been filling out homestead exemptions for 30 years plus. I believe there's an income limit. You have to be under a certain amount of income to qualify. And that income amount has been increased. Is it inflation index, do you know?
I don't know. I don't remember if they indexed that or
I
not.
believe it does increase though, maybe it's legislative. And the cap on the value of a house is capped too, how much of a valuation you can exempt. You can't have $1 million house totally tax-free.
So that may, so there's a number of different exemptions in the homestead program. And I know that most of them have a cap on value. I'm not sure all of them have that cap.
Well, yeah, the non-disabled, non-military, that's who I'm talking about.
Okay.
Over 65.
Okay, yep.
All right, thank you. Any other questions? Senator Erdman?
Thank you, Senator Clements. I think also it has to do with the average price of the home when you're in that particular county. That plays into it too. If
Yes.
your house is greater than the average, then you get less. So that makes a difference.
Yes, it varies by county. I understand. Any other questions? All right, thank you, Mr. White.
Okay,
We will ask for any testimony, proponent, opponent, or neutral regarding the Department of Revenue's budget. Seeing none. We have position comments for the record for Department of Revenue, one proponent, two opponents, none in the neutral position. That concludes the hearing for Agency 16. Agency 82, Commission for the Deaf and Hard of Hearing. A representative, please come forward. Welcome.
Hi. Good afternoon, Chairperson Clements and members of the Appropriations Committee. My name is Kelsey Cruz, KELSEY-CRUZ, and I am the Marketing and Communications Specialist for the Commission and currently serving as part of the interim leadership team at the Nebraska Commission for the Deaf and Hard of Hearing. On behalf of our full Board of Commissioners and entire agency team, I am here to thank you all for the opportunity to expand the criteria for our Rural Communication Access Fund in Nebraska. broadening this program criteria to include not only virtual sign language interpreters, but also auxiliary aids such as real-time captioning in rural areas of Nebraska, as well as in the eastern part of the state, including Lincoln and Omaha areas, will have a tremendous and positive impact in the community. This will greatly lessen the challenges that many Nebraskans who are deaf and hard of hearing experience in daily life, which is effective and qualified communication access. Our mission as an agency is to create opportunities by raising awareness through collaboration, and our vision is simple: access for all. The community's acknowledgement and approval of this program supports that. Thank you again for your support to better the lives of Nebraskans who are deaf, blind, and hard of hearing, and I am happy to take any questions you have. Thank you.
Are there questions? Seeing none, I just was wanting to clarify, are you discussing ARPA funds
Yes,
that were allocated?
yes.
And do you believe that you're going to expend all of the allocation in time to use them under the guidelines?
Yeah, I think we will have a much better possibility of doing that with the expansion to include Lincoln and Omaha to use those funds, because while the initial intent was to focus on rural Nebraska to show the need of qualified communication access, majority of the deaf and hard of hearing population in the state is in Lincoln and Omaha. So that need was still there as well.
Very good. Any other questions? Seeing none, thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Is there anyone here as a proponent, opponent, or neutral on the Commission for the Deaf and Hard of Hearing budget? Seeing none, are there any position comments? We have no comments for the record. That concludes Agency 82. Next is Agency 83, the Community Colleges Aid. Welcome.
Good afternoon. My name is Gary Tim, G-A-R-Y-T-I-M-M, and I am the Finance Officer of the Coordination for Post-Secondary Education. We're the agency that is responsible for allocating and distributing the Community College Future Fund, which is what I'll be talking about a little bit today. We had previously sent, I think, to the Appropriations Committee an estimate of what we thought were going to be the certification number for the Community College Future Fund a couple, maybe a month or so ago, which showed that there appeared to be likely to be a $5 million shortfall between the appropriation and what we as an agency would certify. Quick explanation on how the certification process is going to be working is once we get the number in from the FTE RU audits, which will provide us the RU number to fill in the blank for the second portion of this formula, that will not happen until August 10th, 2024. We start distributing the funds September of 2024. So we won't know the final number until mid-August. So that's where we have a lot of these estimates going on with the RAUs. And once I am able to certify the numbers, the treasurer then will make installments, 10 equal installments to the Community College Future Fund that I will then distribute out to the community colleges per the formula. So the sheet that you have in front of you is made up of two different parts. The first you'll see in what is labeled as columns B, C, and D, the estimated tax or certification value. That is the actual amount. Those amounts are what have been identified through the formula process. So that number will not be changing with any of the numbers that are coming due come August. The second part of the determination, and this is where the numbers we will not know until August. They are the ones that are based off of the REU numbers. The REU is a reimbursable educational unit, which is determined by multiplying the FTE of the students in the course times a weighted portion for that course. For instance, an English course would be weighted at 1.0 because there's not a lot of expensive equipment. However, welding would be weighted at 2.0. So that's an explanation of the REU portion of this. What we had done is we requested from the colleges some REU numbers, specifically fall REU numbers, because they would have those by November, so we could maybe estimate something. What we came up with is like it shows on there that we are apparently going to be $5 million short on what was appropriated by LB 243A. What we have looked at is for an increase of maybe 0.5% in the REU number that we underestimated. It represents about an additional $350,000 that would be added to the numbers. So the community college presidents, they're going to come, they're going to follow me, and some of them have some updated REU numbers that they just received with the current semester. So going back to this, once we add what the dollar amount for the valuation is, what the calculation is for the REU number, that will give you the amount that is going to be needed to be transferred into the Community College Future Fund.
All right.
The first year, that valuation piece only happens this first year to create the base. On a going forward basis, it will be the base that's then calculated for this coming 24-25 year. Then it will be just using the REU to make any increases to the overall number that we are going to allocate to the community colleges for the following years.
All right, other questions from the committee? I'm seeing on this sheet, you're talking about the fiscal year 24-25.
Right, the one that's
Starting this coming July 1st. Up till then, you're not wanting any adjustment.
this 24-25 will be the first year that this happens.
All right,
So we have not made this allocation yet.
and the need, looks like 251 million, and the budget we passed last year allowed 246 million.
Correct,
That's where the $5 million difference comes.
correct.
All right, I think we understand that. Thank you for your testimony. Are there others wanting to testify regarding the Community College Agency 83? Welcome.
Welcome, Randy Schmazel, RNDY-SCH-MAI-LZL, President of Metropolitan Community College in Omaha, Nebraska. And I'm here to follow up on Gary's synopsis. This is the first generation of the tax changes for the community colleges. And so we're working with the coordinating commission, make sure we get the numbers right, make sure we can guesstimate as close as we can to what it's going to take. And right now, majority, 75% of Metro's enrollment growth is in the trades. So those are the 2.0 numbers that are twice the valuation of general ed. And we're very, very pleased that our welding classes, and we got welding classes not only on the college campus, but we just have such a demand that we have a great welding program with Westside High School, Elkhorn High School, Blair High School, Fremont High School. Why so many welders? Well, it's a gateway program for kids in the trades. They may not go into welding, but they learn about HVAC and plumbing. And so we're pleased with how well our welding's going, but it does generate a lot of enrollment. IT, information technology is another growing area for us. So we're estimating that next year, we're going to be between 7 and 8% increase in our REU number. And I hope I'm right. We'll see. But we appreciate the opportunity to try to make this work, because we understand from longtime levying of property tax at the community college that had some problems. Once we get this down, it's 3.5%, and then anything of your enrollment growth above that. Pretty simple, but we got to get the money in place the first year. So beyond saying what I just said, I'd answer any questions that you might have about at least Metro. So,
Are there any questions from the committee? Seeing none, thank you for your
Thank you.
testimony. Have other testifiers regarding the community colleges? Welcome.
Thank you. Welcome. Good afternoon, Chairperson Clements and members of the Appropriations Committee. I'm going to just follow up what we heard from the president of Metro and talk a little bit about what we're seeing at Southeast Community College. So I have really
Your
good
name and
news.
Spell it, please.
Oh, sorry. Paul Illich, P-A-U-L-I-L-L-I-C-H.
Thank you.
So I'm going to get into a little bit more detail about what's happening at Southeast Community College. And as you heard from the president of Metro Community College, we're also seeing something very similar. We saw about a 5% increase in reimbursable education units in the fall. This spring, it's preliminary, but we're up 12%. So one of the things, we didn't have a lot of time to do this analysis since our first class day was August 22nd, but this is really great news. We looked at where exactly, we did a preliminary assessment of where this increase is happening. So the 12% increase, which is the largest increase we've experienced since I've been here at the college about 9 years, 60% of it for the spring is coming from career and technical. Specifically, 19% from information technology, 11% from health sciences, 11% increase in the manufacturing courses, 15% increase in welding, and 17% increase in business. So one of the other things we're seeing, it's not just specific to this semester. Our heavy technology campus, which is in Milford, where we have our diesel technology, HVAC, construction, all those types of programs, we're up over 51% in the last 5 years. So again, I want to thank the committee, thank the state for their strong support of the community colleges. We certainly think that with this new funding model, tying the REO growth directly to our funding is going to be extremely important and very helpful in helping us solve the major issue we have in Nebraska, which is a lack of skilled workforce. So I'm excited about the growth, and I look to see that continuing. I think we all of the colleges that are represented behind me are all doing similar things to try to work on that particular issue. So with that, I'll take any questions.
Any questions? I had one. What's your overall enrollment history? Is it increasing?
In the last several years, well, when the pandemic hit, most of us took a little bit of a drop, but a very little in the case of SCC and some of the others, but we've actually been going up a little bit. And then this particular fall and this spring semester is where we're really seeing the larger increases. And we, at our college, we've been really kind of planning for that. And we expect that to continue to happen for us. So again, because we know we need to solve that issue, we need to expand our capacities and increase those pipelines. So we expect that to continue.
All right. Thank you for your testimony. Next, community college testifier. Is there anyone else? All right. Do we have any position comments? Seeing none, that concludes Agency 83, community colleges. Next is Agency 85, Nebraska Public Employee Retirement Board. Just a minute while my fiscal agent gets here.
Ready.
Okay. Welcome.
It's good to be back, Mr. Chairman. For the record, my name is John Moranti, John Murante, and I am the Director of the Nebraska Public Employees Retirement System, here to testify on behalf of our budget requests. First, I'd like to thank you again for all that you do and for the budget that's been passed so far. We appreciate the work. I can tell you in my short time as director since September, the Nebraska Embers is an efficiently run operation with highly trained, very professional staff that's committed to serving our 150,000 plan members and the approximately $25 billion in assets that we have in retirement savings. I'd like to talk a little bit about our request for additional PSL in the next fiscal year. Since my predecessor submitted his budget last year, we've sort of discovered a couple of items that we think could really make the operation run a little bit better. First is the request that in the pre-approved paralegal for our agency, we're asking for that to become an attorney. And second, at the moment, the individual responsible for running the OSERS retirement plan is also the deputy director of the agency as a whole. And so I'm going to ask from my point of view, the deputy director of an agency this size cannot also be the person responsible for running a pension plan with 15,000 members and $1.5 billion. In my view, that's too much work for a single individual to accomplish. And that the specific responsibility for this retirement plan manager will be to run the OSERS plan. And second, we have identified over the course of the last year as an agency a number of legal issues that really require the additional hire of a paralegal to be an attorney. A unique element of how EMPERS operates is we have a statutorily required legal counsel. So law requires the agency to have a legal counsel, and that individual works directly with the PERB board. So rather than most agency directors have a legal counsel, this individual works directly for the Public Employees Retirement Board. And some of the challenges that we've ascertained over the course of the last year is, first, we have a challenge with the institutional knowledge at OSERS. Unfortunately, in the last year, OSERS lost its, with the understanding that OSERS would cease to exist once the state assumes control of it on September 1st, both the director and a lead for OSERS left. So we are now asking questions, and unfortunately, some of those answers don't come in a timely manner. I do have to compliment the existing staff, both at EMPERS and at OSERS, those who are continuing to work to make sure that September 1st transition is smooth and seamless. They have done a lot of work. I can tell you, we get updates on a weekly basis as to how that transition is going, and I'm confident that on September 1st, that transition will happen seamlessly because of the work of the people who are still there. But there are challenges that we just didn't know when we were here. We didn't know would happen when we were here in the last budget request. So we also found that the Auditor of Public Accounts, as Senator McDonnell will tell you, because the Retirement Committee has public hearings every fall to discuss APA findings for retirement systems, had some findings that we think are going to require additional legal expertise once we assume control of OSERS on September 1st. There are also a lot of differences between how OSERS operates and how the rest of the retirement plans operate under EMPERS. There's just differences in how the plans were set up, differences in timelines and legal restrictions, and a big part of the legislative conversation when the state took control of OSERS was that although the state was assuming control, the plan would largely stay the same. And that's a laudable goal, but the problem from an administrative point of view is we are now dealing with an entirely different retirement plan that operates on different sets of rules, which requires, again, additional legal expertise to go through each of these regulations from retirement termination date to fiscal year. These are all things that are different and complex. So in my view, it would be very beneficial to have another attorney on board. And though I've spoken exclusively on the OSERS issue, we also have a pending issue that will be before the legislature next year, which is Congress passed legislation which requires states and our state retirement systems to offer in our deferred compensation plan a Roth option. So we will have to be here next year asking for enabling legislation to create a Roth option for our deferred comp plan. That once again requires us to look from a legal perspective to change everything that we do, because everything that we do right now is based on pre-tax savings, and that we now have to come up with a system that is entirely post-tax savings. So that is going to require a reevaluation of our rules and regulations. It will probably require, in both the case of OSERS and the case of the Roth deferred comp plan, we may have to start from scratch and create entirely new rules and regs to make sure that all of those are in compliance both with Nebraska state law and the IRS. So those are very complex legal issues. And we will have in the next year statutorily required compliance audit of all the plans. Now, we've never done a legal compliance audit on OSERS, so we are undoubtedly going to find issues that we are going to have to go hire a third-party consulting firm based on state law to come back, do a complete analysis of NPERS and now of OSERS, report to the retirement committee, and then make the legal changes necessary to ensure that we're in conformity, not just with state law, but with federal IRS regulations. And I do think it's probably worth noting, and I'll leave it at this, that there is a unique element to a budget ask coming from NPERS, which is there's no general funds that run through NPERS. The dollars that we spend on administration are charged to the plan members of the plan membership. And by the time I come to you with a budget ask that has been vetted by the Public Employees Retirement Board, each of whom, all of the members of the board, are representatives of a constituent group that has a retirement plan that we administer. So the counties have a seat on the board, the school teachers have a seat on the board, the school administrators have a seat on the board, and so forth. So by the time we get to you, we're asking for, basically the people who are paying the bill that we're asking for has vetted the request and has approved it, which I think is something that's probably worth noting as you deliberate, that the representatives and the fiduciaries responsible for the financial well-being of the plan have okayed the request that we have to you. And with respect to the OSERS, right now the law is set up that we're not asking for state funds here. The law is set up that the cost of the OSERS transfer is billed to OPS. So while we're asking for spending authority, we're not asking for state funds. This is just the cost of and expense of the transition. We're asking for the authority to go bill it. And I think you'll hear from OPS afterwards that they think this is a worthy endeavor as well. So those would be our requests to you, and we'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Other questions? Senator Dorn?
Thank you for being here, and thank you, Senator Clemens. Thank you for being here. Welcome to the job. I guess in the request you had several of these, the schools, the state patrol, and others. We contribute 2%. The state does.
To the schools.
To the schools, it's
Yeah, I don't have
okay. Just to the schools. Okay, thank you for explaining that. I was looking at some of these and they were different. So who does that all entail? The 2% that we contribute to, is it administrators? Is it teachers, parents?
So that 2% goes into the retirement plan. That doesn't deal with our administration. That is the 2% of the salaries of the teachers, of all of the employees of the schools. All statewide goes
together, and then we contribute.
And that goes into the plan. That's right.
Okay. Yes.
Excuse me. Looking at the letter that you provided the committee January 18th, we have taken action on the vacation and sick leave, but on the, I guess the OSERS conversion, I'm seeing a $35,152 number and $83,010 number, totaling 118,162. Those are the figures that you're requesting.
Yes, sir.
And then it's not general funds, that would be billed to where those people were. Those are both OSERS related, is that right?
So the council would be spread out among all of the plan, so the schools, the state schools, OSERS.
Prorated then,
Exactly.
okay.
And the OSERS plan manager as it exists now would be an OSERS responsibility.
Right. I just wanted to clarify the figures we were talking about were agreeable. Any questions from the committee? Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone here wanting to testify regarding the Nebraska Public Retirement Board budget? Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Chairman Clements and members of the Appropriations Committee. My name is Shane Ryan, ShaneRhian, and I am the Chief Financial Officer at Omaha Public Schools and also the Administrator for the Omaha Schools Retirement System in the interim until the Nebraska Public Employees Retirement Board takes over administration. I am here today on behalf of Omaha Public Schools, Nebraska's largest school district, serving over 52,000 students and their families, and the Omaha School Employees Retirement System, the state's only single employer school retirement system with over 15,000 members and beneficiaries. I'm here today in support of the Nebraska Public Employees Retirement Board's request for additional appropriations for the administration of the Omaha School Employees Retirement System. LB 147 was passed by the legislature in 2021 and authorized the transition of administration of OSERS from Omaha Public Schools to the Nebraska Public Employees Retirement Board effective September 1st, 2024. The request for additional appropriations for expenditures of OSERS cash funds to administer the plan are due to several factors related to the complexities of assuming the responsibilities of administering a new and unique retirement system. These include the loss of OSERS institutional knowledge with the retirement of 2 longtime staff members in 2022, complex legal issues with the differences in state statute and provisions between OSERS and the state teachers' retirement plan, challenges in incorporating the administration of OSERS into the NPERB's existing computer systems, and the vast amount of data being converted from OSER's current computer systems and underlying data and files for the over 15,000 OSERS members and beneficiaries. OPS and OSER staff have worked closely with Public Employee Retirement Board employees to make this statutorily mandated transfer of administration. The experience and professionalism of the NPERB staff will be of great value to the members and beneficiaries of OSERS and provide long-term efficiencies in the administration of the plan. We are appreciative of the efforts of NPERB staff during this transition and look forward to working with them in the future to ensure the financial security of the plan for OSERS members and beneficiaries in their retirement. For these reasons, I respectfully support this request for additional appropriations by the Nebraska Public Employees Retirement Board to administer the Omaha School Employees Retirement System. Thank you very much.
Any other questions from the committee? Seeing none,
Thank
thank you for your testimony. Are there other testifiers regarding the Nebraska Public Employee Retirement Board budget? Do you have any position comments? No? No, that concludes agency 85. Thank you. We will now switch to bill introductions. Committee, you need to switch to your other notebook. again for LB 930, Senator Fredrickson.
Yes, hello. Good afternoon. Thank you, Chair Clements and members of the Appropriations Committee. For the record, I am John Fredrickson, JOHN-FREDRICKSON. I represent District 20, which is in Central West Omaha. I'm happy to be here today to introduce LB 930, which is an important bill to help address our state's mental and behavioral health workforce shortage. Now, if I were a betting man, which I am not for the record, I would bet that this is going to be your favorite bill of the day because I am not asking you for money. So, LB 930 does not seek any additional appropriation. Rather, it makes an important change to how funds already appropriated by the legislature may be utilized. There's currently $400,000 in general funds appropriated for fiscal year 2023 to 2024 and $400,000 for fiscal year 2024 to 2025 for the University of Nebraska to partner with the Nebraska Department of Correctional Services and the regional centers to develop programs for students studying to become behavioral health professionals. Such programs include clinical rotations, clinical supervision, stipends, and student coordination and recruitment services. LB 930 simply allows these funds to be used by the university to partner with the youth rehabilitation and treatment centers and our county correctional facilities for the same purposes. This is important for a few reasons. First, these facilities and the adults and children within them desperately need behavioral and mental health resources. The work being done through these programs not only provide real-time behavioral and mental health services, but they also build a workforce for the future. As you will hear today, trainees who have participated in these programs report high levels of satisfaction with their experience, and a large percentage go on to work in public sector settings. Second, by adding YRTCs and county correctional facilities to this appropriation, we are ensuring that rural parts of the state receive greater opportunities to realize the benefits of this program. We know, for instance, that county correctional facilities face many of the same workforce development challenges as our Department of Corrections. They have very limited resources for behavioral and mental health services. I once did my own clinical rotation when I was in graduate school, believe it or not, in a federal prison, and I would have never thought that I would ever work as a mental health provider in that type of a setting, but I personally learned a ton in that experience, and I think that's proof that when you have students who are interested in possibly learning how to provide clinical services in different settings, it can spark an interest and maybe even a passion to serve a community where we desperately need more folks serving. So there's some personal story from there behind this as well. So in closing, I ask that you include the important changes in LB 930 within our budget this year. Thank you. I'll be happy to answer any questions. And as a reminder, no new money.
Are there questions for the committee? Senator Vargas.
Thank you very much for being here, clarifying that you're not a betting man. That was interesting. So I want to make sure that the Department of Correctional Services, this would expand into YRTCs and county correctional facilities. Would that include a definition, detention, like, you know, we have like DCYC detention centers that provide some level of transitional and secure detention. Would they also qualify under this definition?
So the function of this would be to allow for clinical rotations to take place in those settings. So that would, and you know, we have folks from the university who will be able to maybe clarify a little bit more, but that would really be up to the academic programs to determine whether that clinical experience would meet the requirements of the degree the student's facing. But
I'll ask them. That would be probably the only other thing I would want to see, because YRTCs is defined in statute. We've defined it in the past, we've strengthened it over time, and tech YRTCs don't. Like we have DCYC in Douglas County, that's not the definition a youth rehabilitation treatment center, at least that's my understanding. And I would want to make sure that that would be another avenue where they can provide training and support.
sure.
Other questions? Seeing none,
All right.
we will now invite proponents for LB 930. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, members of the Appropriations Committee. For the record, my name is Erin Schneider, ERINSCHNEIDER. I am the Deputy Director of the Behavioral Health Education Center of Nebraska, or Beacon, and I'm appearing today on behalf of the University of Nebraska system in support of LB 930. I want to thank Senator Fredrickson for bringing this important issue to the committee. Beacon is a state-funded behavioral health workforce development center housed at the University of Nebraska Medical Center. Beacon's mission is to recruit, train, and retain the state's behavioral health workforce to improve access to behavioral health care for all Nebraskans. This includes providing training opportunities in areas of critical need for the state, such as the Department of Corrections and the regional centers. There's a chronic shortage of behavioral health providers in correctional settings. As of last week, half of the healthcare jobs at the Department of Corrections were for behavioral health jobs. It is even more dire at the youth rehabilitation and treatment centers, where all the job openings were for behavioral health providers. To help alleviate this shortage, in 2017, Beacon was awarded $400,000 annually from the state's mainline budget to develop and offer clinical rotations to behavioral health trainees at the Department of Correctional Services and the regional centers. In addition to receiving a stipend and dedicated supervision, students gain access to training that covers topics relevant to their clinical experiences and resiliency training to manage stress in the workplace. As of spring 2024, 109 trainees have been supported by this funding. The evaluation conducted by the University of Nebraska Public Policy Center reports high levels of trainee satisfaction and that 25% of the trainees were eventually hired in one of these facilities. You can find additional information on the evaluation and the program in the one-page document I gave you with my testimony. This program has been a success. However, the language of the current statute limits students to only being trained at Department of Corrections facilities or the regional centers. Since these facilities are primarily located in the eastern part of the state, students in western or rural behavioral health programs are often deterred from participating. Through Beacon's work, we know there is a need and demand for these student placements in greater Nebraska. As a graduate level counseling student, as Shattering State College expressed, integrating an internship at the county level of corrections would allow every county jail's inmate to receive mental health, regardless of how rural the area may be. It will expose students to an area of counseling that they seldom think about and allow for more future counselors to work in this underserved category. LB 930 would expand the current statute to include placements at county correctional facilities and YRTCs across the state without any additional funding requests. This language change better aligns the needs of the state with the needs of students, providing more opportunities for Nebraska to grow our own behavioral health providers for positions that are typically difficult to fill, especially in rural areas of our state. Thank you for your time and attention, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Senator Vargas.
Thank you very much for being here. Would you be able to share a little bit about where these funds gone in the past, like what happened, and what were the expenditures for the programs?
Sure.
Given that it's been mostly confined to the Department of Correctional and Regional Services, with the stipends. So I wanted to just give you the
Yeah, it's primarily going to student stipends. So right now, students are receiving $15,000 to do a placement there over the course of a year. So they're working, roughly half time there doing their placements. So that's a chunk of the funding. We also have some staffing support at Beacon to be able to facilitate the funding. We've had to use some funding to pay for supervisors, because if the Department of Corrections or the LRC doesn't have a supervisor type, maybe like if they don't have a counselor that can supervise students, then we need to pay for a contract worker basically to help with that supervision. So that's predominantly how the funding is being spent. And then also for the trainings, we have to pay for trainers to do some of these trainings.
And do you have, this is helpful, any additional information that's stated here? We probably have tables that the University of Nebraska shall include a report on the outcomes of such recruitment efforts within its biennial budget request submitted in 2020 and 2022. So it's just a little outdated. Updates on how this $400,000 has affected recruitment numbers or retaining people?
Yeah, as I mentioned in my testimony, a large chunk of the trainees actually end up, if they're not going to be in the Department of Corrections or LRC, end up working in public sector. And so, other places where we have underserved populations that need to be served. So I think, I would say, I think it's about 50% of the students do go on to do that type of work. I could get you more detailed information. We actually have a pretty extensive evaluation that I could provide if that was of interest.
I think that'd be helpful, especially since I don't know how long this has been in the budget, but not for me, but for those that are going to be on the committee in the future years, it's working really well. We can fund it more. $15,000 stipends for $400,000, at least for some of that. We have, in our correctional facilities right now, I can point to a lot still FTEs that are vacant. Not all of them, but still vacant, where we have a need for behavioral mental health specialists. Just one more question, Chairman. I know I asked this to Senator Fredrickson. I don't know if you know that there's any detention centers that are currently, if they would qualify under this definition, and if not, if we can.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think it would depend on, if they would be considered a county correctional facility, right?
Yeah, I think that's kind of loose because they're not considered correctional,
Yeah.
but they would be a county facility. So it might be just including that part.
Sure.
Thank you very much for being here.
Thank you.
Senator Dorn?
Thank you, Senator Clemens. Thank you for being here. I guess my question is that it's 400,000, I believe, and it's no new funding. So could you update us a little bit on, has this been fully used over the time, or why is it maybe a new part of to be used? Are we fully using all 400,000 every year?
Now we are. So, yeah, so I think, it ebbs and flows depending on the type of staffing that they have at the facilities, because it limits the number of students that they can accept. And so in some years, if we aren't able to expend all the money, then we've used it to do additional trainings for the students, right? So I think right now, though, I think we are developing some online training modules to help offset some of the cost. So we won't have to be paying an ongoing payment to trainers who can use online modules for some of these trainings, right? So we can use some of that funding to pay for some of these county level correctional students, right? So I think, we figured out ways to make it work.
Any other questions? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony. Are there additional proponents for LB 930? Seeing none, is there anyone in opposition of LB 930? Seeing none, is there anyone caring to testify in the neutral capacity? Seeing none, would you like to close, Senator?
Just super quick say thank you for listening. Thank you for being here for the hearing, Senator Vargas. I just want to quickly say I was speaking with my staff. We'd be happy if the committee wished to proceed to have clarifying language to include the detention facilities. We can look into it if that's a possibility. Happy to include that. So just want to quickly share that. Yeah.
Any questions? Seeing none, thank you.
All right. Thank you so much.
We have position comments for the record. On LB 930, we have 4 proponents, no opponents, and none in the neutral capacity. That will conclude the hearing for LB 930. We now open the hearing for LB 1242. Senator McDonnell.
Thank you, Chairman Clements and members of the Appropriation Committee. My name is Mike McDonnell, MIKE-MCDONNELL. I represent Legislative District 5, South Omaha. LB 1242, which seeks to address one of the most pressing challenges of our time, water scarcity. Nebraska, like many other areas, is experiencing increasing stress on our water resources. Residential and agricultural demands are driving wells deeper, signaling a looming crisis that demands our immediate attention. LB 1242 proposes a forward-thinking solution. A $350,000 appropriation from general fund for a critical study of viability of using roof-collected rainwater as a sustainable and safe source of drinking water. This initiative is not just about conservation, it's about innovation and adaptability in the face of environmental challenges. The study will delve into the effectiveness and various filtration and purification technologies in removing both chemical and biological contaminants from rainwater. Our aim is to transfer this age-old method of water collection into a reliable modern-day solution for household water needs. By doing so, we need only conserve precious groundwater resources for agriculture, but also pave the way for a more sustainable and resilient future for our communities. The implications of this research extend far beyond academic interest. Should this study prove successful, it could revolutionize the way Nebraskans think about the use of water, transitioning from reliance on traditional water sources to embracing the alternative sustainable methods that could significantly reduce households' water consumption and alleviate pressure on our state's water infrastructure. I urge this committee to recognize the potential of LB 1242 to set a precedent for water resource management, not just in Nebraska, but across the nation. By supporting this bill, we are taking a decisive step towards sustainable innovation and stewardship of our natural resources. I'm ready to engage in further discussion and address any of your questions you may have. This is a vital piece of the legislation. Here today is to testify is Bing Chin from the University of Nebraska College of Engineering. Bing will talk about this project and give you a little background on the state of the art assisted dwelling unit that he has been having students develop and to test the limits of sustainability. I just want to make sure, Professor Chin is here because I invited him. And so I want to make sure that the university understands. I asked him to be here. When we had an opportunity, and he's going to give you a handout. This small home right now is over on the University of Nebraska at Omaha's campus. It's over by the baseball facility. So you all would have an opportunity to go through and do a walkthrough like I did. When we were doing this walkthrough and he was going through all of the things the students were working on, all of the time, years he has spent, his own dollars and raising it from a number of different people, and how important this was to our future and sustainable drinking water, I really was excited. And Bing's the type of person that when you meet and you have a discussion with, you learn something new every time. And he's passionate about it. And so I just want to make sure that he wasn't giving me the tour for me to, this was my idea and the idea of assisting him in any way we can, but also recognizing the work he's done, the students and the sweat equity they've put in. And again, potentially what this could do for our state and the world if this is successful. So I'm here to answer your questions, but I'm also excited for you to really hear from Bing Chin and get his thoughts and it's exciting. It's exciting for our future.
Other questions from the committee? Seeing none at this time,
I will be here to close.
Okay, we'll have you to close. And we'd like next proponent. And did you have a green testifier sheet?
I'll get it.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Thank you all so much for allowing me to come here and visit with you. It's always a thrill for me to have the opportunity to address the senators of our state. I guess I'm supposed to spell my name for the record.
Yes.
It's Bing and CHEN. So I thank Senator McDonnell for being my sponsor in making this request to you. What is coming around to you is a little bit of a descriptor of our project, which will give you some ideas of what we've been trying to do here. I have been involved with renewable energy research for now 5 decades. In the mid-70s, I started a project to work with Los Alamos Scientific Laboratories to prove that passive solar energy would be successful in this state. And we proved it. And so that was our initial efforts here. Since that time, I have been involved with a number of projects. And about 2011, I thought, what do you want to try to do for a last project for your last hurrah? And I started reading about the small house movement in California for children to be able to take care of their aging parents. And I thought, gee, Nebraska has a pretty substantial senior population. Perhaps we could look at a small house as our last project for me to work on. And so I observed the development over a 5-year period. And in 2015, I said, we're ready. And in that period, we had designed a few mock-ups of a small house. And I said, the time has come. There are going to be 60 million of us at the end of this decade, and quite a few here in Nebraska. And I said, let's build a small house on steroids. Let us use everything I've learned in the last 50 years and at NRail, where I was a consultant for 10 years, in this building, and let's make it ADA compliant. So our partner on this project is the School of Gerontology at UNL. With my own background, I said, let's build a building that meets the 2050 IEA energy standards. And so this building may be among the first in the whole state that will be truly net zero, off-grid capable, and carbon zero. We added another component, which is the gist of today's visit with you, which is to say, we realize that there are now potential water issues facing the state of Nebraska. In fact, I have this, which I'm happy to leave with you, which is an article in the Denver Post expose on the 6.5 million gallons a day that are of PFAS, arsenic, and benzene flowing into a little creek that feeds the South Platte River. This was very, very concerning to me when I saw it, and I'm happy to leave it with you. And I thought, if I ever have the opportunity, I'm going to share this article with our state senators, because I know we're going to build this canal, and I hope it's not a canal that connects with the Suncor chemical plant in North Denver. But I have, shall we say, I have these concerns. Water, to me, is, if you don't have water, you are really destitute. And I think that what we're trying to show with our project is, can we incorporate roof-collected rainwater, much like our forebears did in an earlier century? In essence, it's a modern update. Let's try it again, see how pure is that water that we have collected? How safe is it to drink? To drink, not just to water your lawns, but actually of a drinking quality, much like our great-grandparents had in an earlier era. I think they were a lot wiser and they were a lot hardier in terms of figuring out solutions that met their particular time. And I think the time is coming for us as well. And I thought, let's take a look and see what we can do to work on this. Initially, I have, if you look at the pictures, you will see our little small house on the prairie, I call it. It has solar collectors on top. And the initial part was, are we somehow perhaps endangering ourselves because PV arrays have heavy metals that can be associated with them. None of them are healthy for us. So that was the first part of why I was interested in, if we're going to use roof collected rainwater, we have to understand that we may have a PV array on top of it as well. So that's what started it. And then in encountering my colleagues in biology and chemistry, other questions started to come to play. Well, besides heavy chemicals, Bing, what about biological contaminants, bird droppings, mosquitoes? And I said, oh, wow, guess better talk to biology. And so we put together a small coalition of faculty that said, you know, Bing, I can look for bacteria. I can also look for viruses. And I can also look for amoeba. And I don't know if you're aware of, but last year was the first case of a person in Florida who got amoebic poisoning from his own city water. That really woke me up. And I said, you know, I realize this is Florida. And of course, that young child who caught ill in Iowa, that just reinforced my concern about making certain that if we're going to try this, that we have successfully answered all the potential questions that could exist. Then by accident, this spring, as I was getting ready to go give a talk to the Department of Energy on our sustainable small house, I happened to encounter Chancellor Gold. And he said, so Bing, what have you been working on? And I gave him an idea. He said, interesting project. You know, I suggest you check for other things. I said, what is that, Chancellor? He said, check for nitrates and pesticides, you know, especially in the spring. Much of these become airborne. And if there's rainfall, it can capture both nitrates and pesticides. Said, I hear you. We just added nitrates and pesticides to the total. You've all probably started hearing about the issues, not only nitrates, but also about PFAS and microplastics. The adjoining state, Michigan, has found half of its drinking wells for water are contaminated. Recently, there was an article from Minnesota saying that the pristine boundary waters have now started finding pollution within the boundary waters themselves. I don't know how many of you have had a chance to canoe that. That to me is one of the places that I think it should be our sanctuary. If we go there, we should be able to drink the water like I did 10 years ago. So in terms of the system solution that we're looking at, the last page shows you the filtration network that we are considering. And it turns out what we're going to be looking at is sampling the water at each stage, from the roof through the first filtration system into the cistern itself, and then at each stage all the way to the tap. And what we want to do is compare each of these in the step-by-step process and have biology department and chemistry departments show which things have we managed to get rid of and filter out. If we're successful, we will have, I think, a modern day solution to reutilizing and reintroducing the idea of rainwater roof collection systems into a cistern. I think that the incorporation of water is a significant portion of at least what we're proposing here to you today. But we have so many different projects. I have at least 6 to 10 senior capstone projects from electrical and computer engineering, looking at all different types of things, including the water control systems that we're designing.
I'm going to ask you to conclude there, and we'll see if we have
Sure.
questions from the committee.
So if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Senator Lippincott?
On this mechanism right here at the home, is it electric driven or is it gravity?
It's electric driven by our PV system. So we have 12 kilowatts we will have a potential 12 kilowatts of electrical power available to us into 30 kilowatt hours of battery storage at the present time, once we complete the PV installation on the roof. So yes, it's electric driven.
Senator Gover?
Yeah, my daughter's living on her great grandparents' farm. They have a large cistern. in
I'm
the
sorry?
backyard. My daughter is currently living on my great grandparents' farm that has a large cistern.
So if we're successful, one of the questions we have is not only the efficacy, but what is the cost involved? What kind of recurring costs do you have for instance, the filters? And one of the things that concerns me, yes, if we were all to use this, that would be safe. But what do we do with the filters? And so that's another ongoing study. How do we make certain the filters in the landfill aren't poisoning our groundwater? So these are all, I call it second order questions that enter my mind as we develop this.
Senator Dorn?
Thank you, Senator Clemens. Thank you for being here. Interesting. On this diagram, what Senator Lippincott showed you there, you have a holding tank that says 1,725 gallons, I guess. This house, or how many people you're looking at, and then how long, sometimes we get July and August, we don't get much rain. How long of a time period will this?
So you're correct. That's all the money we had left for the cistern. If I had an unlimited budget, it would have probably been closer to 3,000 to 5,000 gallons. So how much water do we collect with our roof surface area in 1 year? I estimate with 31 inches per year in Omaha, 24,000 gallons. The average consumption is about 100 gallons per person per day, which comes out to 36,500 gallons. And so we have, there's not enough time to go into this, we have a number of water conserving devices in here, including donated low flow toilet flushes. In essence, you can't turn on the water spigot and just leave it on. It'll turn off. You have to have your hand underneath it to get it to work. Can we reduce, and toilets are a big use of this. And I didn't talk about our retention pond that we're going to have for excess water that's collected. So if you ever have the opportunity of coming to Omaha, I invite each and every one of you to come and visit us at the test facility.
Thank you.
Other questions?
And I can leave this with you if anybody would like to read this, because this was something I told one of my friends who gave me this article in Denver. He said, I will try to get this to share it with our state leaders, just in case they may have an interest in this.
Could you give us the address, location for the small house?
I'm sorry?
Where is the small house located?
Oh, it's, you know where the new ball fields are at UNO?
Yes.
We're
You're
right
back-
behind it.
Baxter
We
Arena.
are, there is a medical facility called the Think Building, which is about 350 feet north of Center Street. We are the exact same distance south of Center Street, around 70th and Center Street.
Okay.
And I'm happy to send you the directions, because you could get lost.
We can get those from Senator McDonnell.
I get it for you.
Were there any other questions? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony.
Thank you.
Senator McDonnell, would you like to close?
Yes. Again, you can see Bing's passion for this project. We'll get you a breakdown of every dollar that he's raised so far, how it's been spent, why we're asking for the $350,000 to complete it, the timeframe. He's, again, has years invested in this, and I just appreciate him and the students that have worked on this project. And when you do go there at the stadium and do the walkthrough and understand the potential and the work they've done and the problems they're trying to solve. So you're all invited to please come to Omaha, take a look at it. I will either buy you breakfast or lunch, depending on what part of the day you're there. But Bing is someone that I really think is so dedicated to our state and the future and the next generation of trying to do things, possibly learning from the past and doing something special for the future. So I appreciate your time.
Any other questions? How much water does a person drink in a year?
Drink or consume?
Consume.
How much? That's a
Use.
lot more.
Not
Use is a
drink.
lot more.
Use.
At least a gallon a day.
Okay.
Well, and his is just water. I maybe mix mine with something else. We will get you that average. But
You should be drinking 80 to 100 ounces a day.
All right. Seeing no other questions, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. McDonnell.
Go ahead.
And do we have any position statements? There are no position statements.
No.
Is there anyone here in opposition? Anyone here in a neutral capacity? Seeing none? That concludes LB 1242.
So